He's yelling at me, pull away, and all I did was squirting with claret, and we just missed each other. I could speak in front of people very easily, and I thought I could do that pretty good. Put the camera on, and I looked into the lens of the camera, and I just went completely blank. My phone would not shut up, and I'd got my first video on 10,000 views, my first video with 1,000 likes, my first video with 2,000 likes, or 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 views. I get a lot of selfies at places like Bunnings and nurseries and that. It'd be nice to be recognised in other places. I'm Valencia. I run a YouTube channel called Self-Sufficient Me. I'm an ex-soldier. I started YouTube in 2011 just as keep my hand in the workforce. I was hoping that it could maybe be a career one day, but I was a home dad at the time. And then, turned a part-time YouTube business into a fully fledged career and company.
Why did the military call you as a career?
Well, to be honest, when I was a young fella leaving school, I was a bit of a school dropout. In fact, I flunked high school, and it was only my mother and grandparents really that encouraged me to stay on at school and complete my year 12, which was probably a good thing because at least I picked up a few things like how to spell, add up, maybe. But essentially it was just a social thing for me, school, which probably was important too in hindsight, because I've still got a lot of good school friends that are still strong mates of mine even today. We're talking 35, 40 years ago now. But so I didn't really have anything in mind. I just wanted to do something that was physical, that was outdoors, and that was within my educational limits. And I thought the army would be good for me. I mean, as a young fella, a really young fella, I grew up playing with soldiers.
And you worked your way up too, didn't you?
I did. And that was the good thing. The unexpected thing for me was when you have to get promoted in the military, you could get in at a really low level. But if you wanted a career, you still had to go back to school. So when you got promoted to sergeant and then warrant officer after that, there was a series of promotional educational courses that you had to achieve and standards. And so basically I had to go back to school and learn English and maths over again and pass them, which I did with A's. And then you could qualify to get your promotion. And just because you did all your courses, like between, say, sergeant and warrant officer, there's up to 4 different courses that you have to go on, plus do your daytime job. And some of these courses are 3 months away. And so there's quite a bit involved in it. And just because you've done those courses doesn't mean you're going to get promoted either. There has to be a position for you, and then you have to be good enough amongst your peers to fill that position because there's other people going for it. So I really enjoyed it. I really loved my army career. I liked the humanitarian side of it, and the way it grew me as a person from a little high school dropout rebel, smoking, drinking a lot, to a responsible citizen, good man, I hope to say, that respected authority, respected people, enjoyed helping others, and so I owed the army a lot, even though it tried to take me out several times through my service.
And you had overseas deployments to Sahara and East Timor, I believe?
Yeah, I was lucky to get the Sahara. It was a small deployment of only 45 of us, and our job was, at the time, Morocco had taken over the country below it, which was the Western Sahara. It was a small little country. And out of that incursion, I think they called it the Green March, out of that incursion, there was a guerrilla force blowback, and they pushed into Algeria, and then they just kept hitting the Moroccans from the border. Basically, there was about 1,000 people a month, I think, dying in that conflict. We went over as peacekeepers as part of a larger force, of course, a worldwide UN force, and we stopped the dying, so that was good. And it was supposed to be a 6-month tour, but we ended up being there for nearly 12 months because we were trying to finish that mission off in 12 months. But like so many UN missions, it just kept on going, and I think it's still going today, but we were the first in that instance, and it was very eye-opening and interesting for a young guy, he's 23-year-old, driving around the desert and flying around the desert, delivering stores and helping people and all that. It was, dangerous, very dangerous, but really great fun. Yeah, and out of that tour, which was really abnormal, they don't do this anymore, but in the old days in the military, they gave you time off while you were overseas. So we could not go back to Australia. But after my 6-month tour there, I qualified for nearly 3 weeks off. I could go anywhere in Europe, anywhere else, fully paid, plus a bit of extra cash. And yeah, so I spent 17 days in Europe with another mate, just having a great time. It was surreal, really, for a young fella, staying in 5-star accommodation, because that's what the UN wanted to put us up in. And 23-year-old was fantastic. Yeah, then I went back and chewed sand for another 5 months or so, and then went home. Yeah.
Chewed sand, I love it.
Yeah.
Tell us about Nina and the cold drink in East Timor, was it?
Yeah, well, that was my first, I was deployed to East Timor twice. The first time was when it first blew up, and there was a need to get in there quick, and it was called interfet, and you had to basically stop the killing and the problems and everything straight away. And the second time I went over was when the president of East Timor was shot up. They tried an assassination attempt on him, and I was with an infantry battalion, 6 RAR in Brisbane, and their job was to go over and catch this guy and chase him down in the jungle and get rid of him, basically, because he was a threat, obviously. So, but the first time, so there were 2 really interesting times to get deployed to Timor, really interesting tasks. And the first time I was over there, my base job in the military was logistics. I went into the military as, well, your base job is always a soldier first, and you're trained in basic infantry skills. But then my secondary main job was logistics. I was a driver to begin with. Then as I progressed up, I became a trainer. I ran a platoon of people that drove logistics and trucks around and delivered bombs and ammunition and all those things needed, food to the guys out in the field. And but when I went to Timor, they were short on infantry commanders, so they were short on soldiers and corporals basically. I was a sergeant at the time, and so they put me in charge of an infantry section, and my job was to patrol the streets of Dili and keep people safe and kick doors in if we had to, and arrest militia when we found them. And that was very interesting as well. But when I was doing that, it was very harsh. You'd go, sometimes you'd spend 2 weeks or so under your little plastic tarp in a position, directing traffic, finding bad guys, or just sitting there and making sure everything was safe. And you'd just be eating your army rations, and which were okay for a couple of meals, but they're not great to live off, as you could imagine. They're really just there to sustain you.
Is it that sort of dried or dehydrated food that you add water to?
Yeah, a lot of it's dehydrated stuff. Add water, heat it up in the can, put it in your Dixies, make a stew out of it. Hard chocolate that won't go off, but it doesn't taste very good either, so that was like a treat. They used to have little packs of M&Ms. I mean, I suppose, so that's okay, but you get sick of M&Ms too. I was on a checkpoint, and Nina, well, I didn't know, but this high ace came through, and I'm in my flak jacket, I'm fully geared up, my weapon and ammunition and everything, sweat, you're in a tropical environment, so you have to be protected. It's the awful thing. It's like you have to wear all this gear, but it's like 50 degrees and it's humid as, so I'm sweating like nothing. Only been drinking water for 2 weeks, and I see this heist coming through our checkpoint, and I'm making sure it's okay and it's our guys and everything all fine. And in the back was this lady, and she's leaned out the window and she's gone, Mark, she's recognised me. I had worked with Nina several years ago, previous, as recruit instructors. We were both recruit instructors at 1RTB Kapuka at Wagga Wagga, so yeah, we had known each other beforehand, not romantically or anything, but she turned out to be my wife. But at that point, yeah, we were friends, and she saw me, and the highest has stopped there, and she's handed me, because the medics, they have a sort of much cushier living conditions than we did. I mean, I'm out in the field, and it'd be nice to have. You just can't stock that stuff. You need to carry what you got to live with, and it's not cans of Coke and other stuff. You've got to have room for your ammunition and the main things to sustain you. But anyway, so she hands me this cold can of Coke, and I was just, the sweat's just dripping off my face, and it was just so cold. And I said, oh, thank you. I haven't had a soft drink or a Coke in weeks. And anyway, they couldn't hang around, so she said, oh, we'll catch up later. It was good that we knew each other then, was in location. And I had that Coke. I thought about sharing it with the section, but by the time I would have got back there and changed over picket, would have been hot. So I just had to have it all myself. Yeah.
I love it. But tell us about your accident. You've got a whopper of a wound there.
So I lost my forearm, and as a consequence of losing that forearm there, to patch me up, they had to remove my full left latissimus. So I had to cut that full big muscle out and transplant that muscle into where the forearm used to be, and then put a skin graft from my left thigh, a massive skin graft, and they flapped it over. And the surgeons, it was James Masson in Sydney, the Sydney Hand Hospital. He did some amazing things. I believe I was the first latissimus transfer to forearm in the world. Yeah, so it was actually new, breaking ground. But they didn't want to take a muscle. They usually took muscles from legs, but because they wanted to try to save my military career, they decided to gave me the option. If you want to take it from up here, you'll still be able to run, jump, do all those things. You'll just have limitations with your left upper body, maybe pull-ups. But yeah, that was my choice, and I thought, yeah, let's give it a go. And it was a great decision, and it worked really well. But stepping back, how it happened was, I was training. We were actually training parachuting over Narrandera, so not far from Wagga Wagga. I was based in Sydney at the time, and I was the sergeant transport for the oldest Australian Army unit called A-Field Battery, and they jump out with their cannons, with the 105 howitzers. My job really, as running the transport platoon, is to take ammunition and bombs to them. So typically I would fly into a location when they've jumped in with the minimum and the minimum ammunition they could hold and jump with, and then they'd get established, and then you'd get a main supply route going, and my job would then be to consequently come in and keep resupplying them. So there wasn't really a need for me to learn how to parachute, not at all. But the Army being the Army, my commanding officer came to me and he said, there's not a need for you to jump, but it's just, my reasoning is for leadership, sort of leading by the front, you still should be parachute qualified. And so, yeah, I did. I got parachute qualified, and I took part in these jumps. And on one occasion, I was jumping out and with full equipment, weapon, backpack, which the backpack was between your legs at the time, because you jump with all your main gear between your legs.
So how much extra weight is that you'd be carrying?
You're looking at 40 to 50 kilograms extra weight. Yeah. Webbing, backpack and all that.
That's a small person.
Yeah. So you're very heavy. So you imagine the inertia. And at that time, the rules were when the green light goes, you basically run out the door. You follow everyone else, and you have what they call a stick of 16 guys. It can be sort of any length, but it's usually about 16. I was about 8, so I was about in the middle. And as you're going towards the door, and you hand your static line off to the dispatcher who's waiting there. They take it, get it out of the way of you. And you jump out, and it goes very quick. Basically, 16 guys are out in a few seconds. Now they've changed it to make everyone jump out and pause and then jump. They've stopped that quickness after my accident. But so what happened with me was, as we got close, there was a young fella in front of me, and he might have got a bit scared, and he balked at the door. And as he balked and stopped, I pushed up against him, and the guys behind me pushed me, and I went on my tippy toes because he was shorter than me, way shorter, and I almost tumbled over the top of him because everyone sort of pushed me. And so I've gone out, the static line wrapped around my wrist, and it's held my wrist, and I got sucked out of the plane. And of course, your static line is what pulls your chute open and is connected to the aircraft. So now my arm is connected to the aircraft. I'm being pulled out. So my arm's been smashed back. I think I hit the door on the way out, and the arm was gone backwards that way. Yeah. And then the twisting has twisted the arm. I know this is a bit graphic, but I won't get too much worse. It was very painful, and but it was lucky that the arm had come loose in a way, because that looseness, the static line had then fell off. My arm was degloved, my shoulder was ripped out, and the chest, my right pectoral was ripped off the shoulder. That was pulled there. So there was a lot of damage, but my arm wasn't ripped off. And my surgeon said if it was ripped off, I would have been dead by the time I hit the ground. But as it was an open fracture. There was a lot of blood and everything, but I wasn't bleeding out. So I got free, and I knew something had happened. I just went really numb. And then I saw the claret, lots of clarets spurting and stuff. And I couldn't move this arm. And I tried to steer, and I was going nowhere with the one arm, probably in circles. And I had this guy coming towards me, and the drill is, if you're coming towards each other, you yell out, pull away, and then you steer away from each other. He's yelling at me, pull away, and all I did was squirting with claret, and we just missed each other. Yeah. And anyway, then it all was quiet, and I made my way to the ground. And as I was going to hit the ground, I remembered enough to try to drop my pack, to still go through my drills. And I had my left arm working, so I at least dropped my pack before I hit the ground so I could get my legs together. Otherwise, I probably would have did the splits and done a lot more damage. But as it was, I busted my coccyx and both my ankles. I hit the airstrip, so it wasn't a good place to land. And I did a real job on myself. And then they called the ambulance. The first ambulance broke down, and as it was coming towards us, and so they had to then call another ambulance, which took a lot longer. They took me to Narrandera Hospital. They couldn't do anything for me there because it's beyond their capability. So they then had to reroute to Wagga Wagga. Got me there. They stabilised me there, but by that time, too much time had passed. It was the forearm, and the forearm muscle that was there had died, and so they had to remove that, fix the bones. An excellent surgeon in Wagga Wagga who fixed the bones, left the wound open and just sort of packed it and everything. And then they got me to Sydney, and that's when James Masson took over and and did all that wonderful transplant surgery and all that. So it took me at least 18 months to get my hand back and my arm back. Yeah, it was a long road, and but yeah, I worked hard on my physiotherapy. Very hard. I was obsessed with getting back to health. And so, yeah, I watched my diet, I exercised, I did as much work as I could, and I got a lot of impressive hand movements back.
Where were you living then during this rehab period?
I was living in Horningsea Park in Western Sydney. Yeah, and so I'd travel to Liverpool. It wasn't without its problems. After I was in hospital for 3 weeks, and it was major surgery. There was lots of scars and lots of, because the latissimus dorsi is a massive muscle, and I worked out a lot, and so I'm a big fella, and at the time I was fairly muscular, and so this was a massive thing. It was like I was like Popeye, and it was this big piece of meat really on my arm, and it wasn't pretty at all. So they had to leave that muscle naturally atroph down, and then because of this jelly wobbly thing, then they had to shave this and mould it into the shape of the forearm as it is now.
Let's talk about the transition from the army to YouTube. How did that start, and what did Nina say that prompted you to start an online career?
Yeah, that was, well, the transition was unexpected because in 2008 I left the military, became a home dad, and we just thought that was the best thing for our children. Rather than dragging them around Australia, keep staying in the military. It wasn't forced out really because of my injuries, but it was getting harder for me, I have to admit. It was getting a lot harder. As you go up, your hierarchy, you expect a lot of you, and there's always this lead from the front mentality. And so you almost have to be better than your 18-year-old soldiers that are underneath you, and which becomes increasingly difficult. And especially if you're carrying these types of injuries which exclude you from certain activities, which it doesn't really matter because I'm a manager, essentially. It's still a perception that you should be doing these things. So some commanders that I came across were good, some weren't. So anyway, I became a home dad, and the main thing was the children, and out of that I grew as much food as I could because we took a significant pay drop. And I think I've told this story many times, so I won't talk too much about that. But the YouTube thing was very interesting for me personally because of the way, in hindsight, I look back on it now. I approached YouTube because my wife, Nina, she said, look, Mark, you're talking a lot at barbecues and you're repeating yourself all the time about how to grow this, and people became very interested in how we were surviving and how we were growing all this food. We'd take a box of produce to our friend's place as a gift because we had so much, and people would say, how'd you grow this, how'd you do that? And Nina reckons that, Mark, you should start a website and at least write down your recipes, have them there, have how to grow things. That way you can just refer people to it instead of repeating yourself constantly. And quite frankly, she said, I'm getting a bit bored of it, and I went, yeah, I can understand that. Yeah. And that's a great idea. So I started a blog, what do you call it? And I thought I was self-sufficient, being self-sufficient in a lot of things. And it's me, so I just called it Self-Sufficient Me. I didn't give it a heck of a lot of thought. And that's how Self-Sufficient Me was created. And that same year, I was watching a lot of gardening stuff on YouTube and online, but videography was very interesting. And I thought, well, I could do that too. Why not start a YouTube channel at the same time? So I did that. And yeah, if you go back and see my early videos, they were pretty horrendous. And
Peri quail on the Weber.
Oh yeah, peri quail on the Weber. that was yeah. Well, it wasn't just gardening I was doing, of course, and it still isn't. It's a homesteading. It's keeping chickens, and at the time, keeping a lot of quail. Quail are easy to grow, easy to dispatch, easy to eat. So I thought I would impart my knowledge to the world on how to cook up peri quail using our ingredients from the garden, chilies and our lemons and everything, and. I think it's about a 5-minute video. I've made about 10,000 jump cuts because I set the camera up. I thought this, I have to say, I really thought it would be easy because I'm an ex-recruit instructor and I thought I could do that pretty good. I set up the quail and the cooking and I had it all in my head. I put the camera on and I looked into the lens of the camera and I just went completely blank. It was a really wake-up call that this is a whole new thing and a whole new world and a whole new, what could you say, a series of what do you call it, skills that I had to learn and practice and get good at. But I continued on and I put that video up. And I'll look back on it now, it's just awful. I did say to Nina, when I did start having some success on YouTube, I thought, now's the time I'm going to cut all those videos. And she said, don't you dare, because this is where you've come from. And it's interesting for you when you look back later. So, she had quite a bit of wisdom in it back then. And I agreed though, so I left them up. And now it is good to see where I've come from. I still got a lot of room to improve and I'm still always trying to improve, and you're getting more equipment and everything like trying to do that. But yeah, that's how it was born. And I think it took me about 90 to 100 videos before I started to get confident in front of the camera. And with more confidence and becoming myself more instead of the instructional soldier and being more, I think I became a bit more relatable if I'm going to psychoanalyze myself. And then I started getting more success.
What else did you do to gain views on your channel? Like, did you look at other social media platforms, website?
Yeah, so that probably leads on to then how do you get the views? And that was something that I was trying to do, and that's why I moved to in front of the camera more. And I realised though that my instructional type way, see, when you leave the military, it's a lot of guys, probably 99%, have a problem of being indoctrinated into the military culture and the way of speaking and life and everything. It's very different to civilian life. And so even though I was starting to get a small following, I think it was holding me back because I was too much thinking that I had to be an instructional instructor instead of genuinely, this is how I'm growing this stuff, and relax a little bit. And it was actually out of frustration when my channel wasn't moving, when I actually relaxed a lot more. And so there was a crossroads there where I was very close to shutting down YouTube.
You even made a video about that too, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. I made the video and I was dead serious. And anyway, out of that, I think I was going to do a video on Meyer lemons, and because I had this Meyer lemon tree that was going really well, and the way I brought it up was several things. I mulched it more, I gave it some fertilizer, I pruned it, and I'd done these several things. I was really happy with how it was growing. We had so many lemons we didn't know what to do with. And so let's do a video on that. So instead of being, I had this script and everything, and I was going to be instructional about it, and I thought, I'm just going to talk like I'd be talking to Nina standing there, and I'm going to say, what do? I'm thinking, well, it's about 5 points, my 5 top tips. There's a ton of lemons on this tree. Let's give it my 5 top tips on how to grow a ton of lemons on one tree. And I said that in the beginning, and that's what I focused on, and I did 5 tips. I was a bit goofy, thought I'd get underneath through a few different camera angles, and I had a lot of fun making that video. Anyway, it got about the same amount of views as usual, which was, I didn't think nothing of it, but I had fun making it. But then about 6 months later, we were on the way overseas. We had to save up because one of our friends was getting married, and he was ex-Scottish Army, and he was getting married at Edinburgh Castle, of all places. Hired out Edinburgh Castle, so you can't miss a wedding like that. And had the whole works, the stewards and everything, in military fashion. They all delivered their plate at the same time and put it down in front of everyone at exactly the same time, then stood back, attention. It was fantastic. But back from that though, on the way over, we landed in Dubai and we were able to switch our mobile phones on and everything, got the Wi-Fi from the airport. My phone would not shut up. It's going ding, ding, ding. And at the time, YouTube gives you notifications for how milestones. And I'd got my first video on 10,000 views, my first video with 1,000 likes, my first video with 2,000 likes, or 5,000, 10,000, 100,000 views. That lemon video got picked up by the algorithm. People started sharing it, and it just went completely nuts. So within about a week, I had 100,000 subscribers.
So just back up for 1 second. How long after you posted that video did that virality happen?
Yeah, I think it was about 4 or 6 months. So it was quite a while. Yeah, quite a while. And I don't know what happened, why that went sick all of a sudden. But it could be as simple as a few people needed, or it could have been lemon season in the States or something, and citrus, and then it just, more people, it started getting shown to more people. Of course, that's how YouTube works. If a video is popular on a certain subject at the right time and all the ducks line up, you can get virility. And so that was a real big red flag for me, in a good way.
Green flag, maybe.
Green flag, yeah, green flag. Green flag to maybe let's start doing this a bit more and have more fun, be a bit more goofy, have some dad jokes, be yourself. It doesn't really matter that you look like a moron sometimes or a bit goofy. You don't have to be so professional. It's not TV, it's YouTube. So that's what I started to do.
Was it all plain sailing after that, those first couple of viral videos?
Well, yeah, I suppose you could say that that was luck, because it was. But I was trying different things, and that was, I didn't think anything of it at the time, like I said, because I have to make that point strong, because it wasn't a strategic thing I came up with. But you have to learn from things. Yes, this was a big green flag, and it was something that stood right out. Other things or other pieces of content that work well might be not as obvious, but they could lead you down a path where you've got to listen to feedback, look at the results. I mean, I don't harp on statistics too much. I've never been one to get into the analytics too deep. That just bores me. But if there's some sign there, and I mostly get the signs from feedback of audience, number of views, watch time is important, not just how many people view it, but people might view a video and click off after 1 minute. You don't want that. You want them.
Does that still count as a view?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it still counts as a view, but that's a poor view in my view. See what I did there? Yeah.
I do.
But yeah, you want longer watch time. And how did you get that longer watch time? And it's usually because you're telling a decent story, or you're giving an information flow that keeps people engaged. So that's why 1 to 10 works so well. And it's always worked well, because people are wondering what the next tip is. And as long as you don't go too long on tip 3 and people getting bored, they'll sit and wait for tip 4, because it shouldn't be too far off. And on what is tip 4, that type of thing, works really well, as long as you do it properly. and don't overexploit it. And you shouldn't be, as a YouTuber, I found out, like I did a lot of how to grow a tons of after that. You've got to be careful of doing every video that too, because then people just get sick of that and get a bit bored with it. So if you start chasing virility on YouTube, that's a terrible place to go, because then you lose sight of real life information. Then you start to go down the chasing clicks and yeah, and that's not good either.
And you start wearing bikinis for the thumbnails.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You don't want to be wearing mankinis and stuff and going too stupid. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the effects of COVID and what happened with your channel during that period.
If you're talking about luck, that's kind of luck. It was COVID and the pandemic. So when that hit and the lockdowns came into effect, that was, I think, March. By the end of March to April, I was averaging around 3 million views a month. Sometimes if you get a really good video, it might jump up to 4 or 5 or so. But it was averaging around 3. When the pandemic hit, in that between March and April, my views went from 3 million, they jumped to 10 million practically overnight within a couple of weeks. And they stayed at 10 million for several months because everyone was stuck at home and they weren't just watching videos, they wanted to do something else. And
there's a bit of a food panic.
There was a food panic as well, yes, and there was a lot of things getting sold out. So people turned to gardening. And I happen to be an online gardener guy, growing veggies, food, and so it just took off like nothing. That still is my best time ever.
So it sounds like there was the perception of the value of self-sufficiency increased enormously during that period. Do you think that's maintained? It hasn't.
No, it hasn't maintained, because I will, I get a lot of selfies at places like Bunnings and nurseries and that. It'd be nice to be recognised in other places. But nurseries and Bunnings, I get the most selfies. When I get a selfie with someone, I'll ask them, what are you growing at the moment? And they'll tell me what they're growing. Look, I'll have to say, this last 12 months, maybe 5 in 10 would say we stopped growing now because COVID was over. We've gone back to work. Life is normal again. And the veggie garden, it's just got a lot of weeds in it at the moment. So I'm there going, no, start working back into that garden. It's not just pandemics. It's not just being a prepper. It's not just waiting for the next big thing to happen. Veggie gardening will reduce your stress at work, get you out sniffing the roses, so to speak. It helps on your food bill, cost of living. I mean, if you go buy a handful of herbs at the supermarket, you're paying $5 to $10. You can pluck them from your herb garden or a pot constantly over and over, and who cares if they go back into the compost or they go and die in the crisper or the fridge because you didn't use them all. It doesn't matter because you didn't pay for them, So I try to convince them to get back into their gardening. But yes, a few people have dropped off, and so did my views. They all went back to normal. And that was the same with a lot of creators.
But your channel continues to be really popular. And what do you think you're getting so right now these days? I mean, you've proved that you're not exactly a flash in the pan.
My longevity, I think, is continually trying to evolve. And you have to enjoy what you do as well, and that has to come across in the camera. I like doing experiments, which is different from a lot of other gardening channels, but there's a few more that are catching on to that, which is great. The more of us doing experiments and uplifting the genre of gardening online, I think the better. I don't see the other guys as competitors or the other big gardening channels on YouTube. I see them as colleagues. I interact with them a lot. I don't think there's any of them that I don't interact with and encourage and hope they do well. I think there's plenty of room for gardening on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere else.
And I think the beauty of gardening too is that there's never one correct answer for any gardening question.
Yeah.
And microclimate and climate play into it just so much.
Yeah, that's right. You cannot, it's like your own garden. You know, the gardening world is like your own garden. It's always evolving and there's always something to do and there's always something you learn. That's what, it's a hobby that keeps keeping your brain ticking over, and there's so many other of those offset benefits. You know, your health, you're eating healthy, you're organic, you're getting out in the sunlight, you know, all them as well. But as from a content creation point of view, I'm never short of ideas, and there's always a new thing to explore, like electroculture or something like that you want to explore and dabble in and tell people about. Yeah, YouTube, yeah, it has changed a lot since I first started. I think it's got better. I think it's got easier to be able to upload things. In my case, the internet's got faster, but YouTube has improved the back end. It's probably the best back end for a creator on any other platform. There's less bugs. It just you upload a video, it doesn't break on you usually. It's got very good spam capture. It's not perfect, but it's better than the other platforms, and it's very rewarding. It's probably the most lucrative out of all the other platforms. Well, no, it's not probably, it is. So if you're just going to rely on AdSense alone or the ad revenue from YouTube, if you're getting enough views, well, say 1,000 views on YouTube is going to be worth more than 1,000 views on Facebook or TikTok or anywhere else. So for a new creator, I would start on YouTube.
So you'd still do YouTube right now if you were starting from 0 subs today?
Definitely. Yeah, and I think it's a great platform for young people. I think it's a good platform for old people. But one of the things I got taught was the niching down, not just guinea pigs, but black and white guinea pigs. You know, people can niche right down to a black and white guinea pig because it's not just me talking to 100 people in Australia or something or doing town halls. I can have black and white guinea pig channel, for instance, and because it's going worldwide, you might get 100,000 people or 1 million people around the world, or the 20 billion people we've got that are interested in that. And you're reaching that worldwide audience. You can make money out of a very small niche down area.
Is target audience something that you ever really thought about for your channel?
It wasn't when I first started, except when I started getting more success. It was sort of a scattergun approach. But yeah, I started thinking of doing different types of content to help different groups of people. So I started with homesteading type stuff. I've got 3 acres. It's not huge, but it's still quite big, and it's bigger than most urban people. So I'm not reaching. I mean, some people might aspire to leave the city one day and get some acreage. So they'll be watching those videos, and then people that are into the acreages might be watching those videos. There are a lot of people in high rises and have balconies and have townhouses and that. And I was thinking, to reach them, I need to create a different type of content. And this is what it's important that you do analyze your target audience. Otherwise, there's no point in going down a line. If you want to reach a bigger audience, you'll need to understand how do you get to that audience. And there's a lot of people that live in the city. And so when I did start niching down and talking about balcony gardens, growing in containers instead of like in a big acreage or in a big garden bed, you're picking up then those extra subscribers and those extra eyeballs on your content.
Now, I've seen some creators describe YouTube as a sort of income funnel in that you're able to direct viewers to other income streams based on your video content. How have you done this?
Yeah, to using YouTube as a sort of money funnel, I haven't done that very well over the years. I relied quite a bit on just the YouTube money, the AdSense and the ad money that you get from YouTube. But then I started affiliatizing out because I knew, and I was told as well in the YouTube game, and I also got burnt a bit when YouTube goes through changes, or there's a lapse in advertising at certain times of the year. Advertising goes away, or it's not as prevalent. You're still trying to get a share of that advertising. Your revenue does go down, and so I knew I had to diversify a bit, and so I did go into affiliatization, and that was sort of, reviewing products, and finding good products or products that I already use. And in the case of garden beds, for example, say Birdie's garden beds, I lobbied them for a couple of years saying, I really love your beds, do you want to work together? And eventually they picked me up.
So did they actually, you emailed them a few times and they literally said no?
Yeah.
Or you just kept annoying them?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they didn't reply for a few times, and eventually, I started making such a mark that one day I got an email from the CEO of Birdie saying, "I think, Mark, we better talk." Yeah, and affiliatization, but it's important not to be a sellout. You also have to I try where possible to split my affiliatization with the customer, so that I always want to try to give them a discount where possible, and that often comes at your monetary expense. But I think that's important because I'd like to share that gain. I like to share that revenue savings or that cost savings with the customer.
And I think one big point to note about your approach to YouTube is that you don't do sponsored ads or brand deals, as they call them.
No, that's right. Yeah, I still haven't done in my how many years of YouTube since 2011, a brand deal or a sponsored video. Well, people will give me products and I can review them, but there's no payment for making a video that they want. And often I pay for my own products, especially if it's a small business. If it's a very small business, I don't want them giving me stuff because they're struggling as it is. So I'll pay for that. And if I really like the product, then I'll plug it. And if I can work with them in an affiliatization way, all the better. And if I can get a savings for the customer, because it's one of my subscribers, and pay them back a bit for the eyeballs they give me, that's even the best.
So we won't be seeing any BetterHelp or AG1 or Squarespace coming?
No, I do get thousands of those requests to do these small, well, not small. Some of them are very lucrative. Yeah. Because it goes off how many subscribers you have and your views and your demographics. So I could get quite a lot of money out of those sponsored type videos, but I don't like them myself. I fast forward them on other channels, so why would people like them on mine? And plus, I do it well enough by affiliatization, selling my merchandise, and Patreon, so crowdfunding type ideas where people just, out of the kindness of their heart, give me some money every month to do what I do.
When do you think a channel or a creator should start Patreon? Tell me your thoughts on it. Is it much more work? When did you start it?
I started Patreon when it first, not long after it first came available, and it's all worth it. It's I think you should start it as soon as you start your YouTube channel. Patreon itself, for me, it's not too much of an extra effort because it's easy behind the scenes stuff, and it's the odd photo, and it's what's happening. It's different content. Like if I was to go on YouTube and say, Oh, my week's been, it's been raining non-stop. I went to the Melbourne Garden Show. I mean, some people like that, but most people wouldn't be interested in it. But those real close fans of mine and subscribers who pay for that extra content, they're actually very interested in what's happening day to day. How is the garden going through all this rain at the moment? And I'll just talk about that for 5, 10, sometimes 15 minutes, and they'll enjoy that content.
So you just take a camera out to the garden, talk off the cuff, and upload
Yeah.
it straight away.
Yeah, it's off the cuff. It's minimal editing. It's
Yeah.
easy, and it has to be that. Otherwise, I just won't have the time to do that. And that's the difficult thing with getting extra revenue streams and being on other platforms. How do you stretch yourself out without burning yourself out? See, that's a difficult thing to do. And writing a book has been really lots of fun, but really hard and long hours because you're still trying to do everything else you're doing. So I don't think I'll like continually keep writing books, but I'll write a book and have a break and maybe do another one and that type of thing.
How do you choose video topics week to week?
I do have a list of video topics, and a lot of them are kind of chosen for me because I've started videos as experiments in the garden and they're coming to fruition. So then they've got to be the next one. And so I've probably got 50 different videos sort of going. At the moment on my PC for rough scripts and that, I've got 10 Word documents opened and I'm working on all of them.
So you script all your videos now?
I don't script them all. Sometimes I'll script them because they might be a long experiment and I don't want to forget things, and so I'll script that. And the other thing is I waffle. I'm a real great waffler.
You reckon?
Yeah, yeah. I love talking. I have to really watch my watch.
I can tell which of your videos are scripted and which aren't.
Yeah, I bet you could. Yeah, exactly. So to stop the waffling and get it more succinct so it's not as painful for everyone, and if you're doing a long experiment, you want to just get the main points in, otherwise people get bored. And so that's the reason why I script some of them and not all of them. And then the ones I don't script, I am conscious of trying to cut out as much as I can. And I have learnt that from the past because, like I was saying before, if you watch the watch time and you go through the analytics, you'll see where people drop off. And when I go back and I look, it's usually when I've just waffled too long and they've got bored and they've gone to make a cup of tea and never came back, kind of thing. They've paused it or stopped it, that. And I can say, well, I should have just cut that bit out.
And how does that play into video length? Like, is there a sweet spot for video length? And and what's the relationship between video length and your type of channel or your topic?
Yeah, it's a really hard one to explain. The video should be as long as it needs to be. That's the saying, and that's so true. Because if it's exciting or if it's informational and people are engaged, you can, for the 20 minutes and it's worth it to them, they'll watch it all through. Having said that, it depends on the mood. So a garden walk around video, it might go for 50 minutes. But yeah, if they're really wanting to sit back in the chair, watch it on the TV, have a cup of tea and don't care that I waffle too much, but just enjoy the walk around, those videos do well. They might not get millions and millions of views, they might not go viral, but if it's 50 minutes, if you're talking money, there's say 10 ads in that, and people are just relaxing and then they watch the ad or they switch off and wait for it to come back on. That's money. That's so 500,000 views or 10,000 views on a long video could be worth as much as 1 million views on a short video.
Do you work to a schedule now? And do you have an upload schedule? And how important is that upload schedule on a very new young channel versus you?
Yeah. my schedule is I always want to try to upload one video a week, and the last few years I haven't been very good at doing that. Yeah, but that's what I like to do. Always at least one. I'd even love to do two for my channel. One sort of 12 to 15 to maybe a long format video, and another one around 4 to 6 minutes. I'd love to do those two, and then a couple of shorts. That'd be perfect, and that's what I'd like to get to. But I've been writing books, I've been doing other things. It's been raining cats and dogs, there's been cyclones, and there's been a lot of things in the last few years that's put me back a bit. Having said that, it is easier for me because when you've got an established channel and you've got other revenue streams and other things and other balls in the air and stuff, you can get away with it. If I was a new channel, being disciplined and getting that out and working hard is the right thing to do to start your channel off and get it moving.
How clickbaity should creators get?
Yeah, clickbaity is, well, you shouldn't deceive people to the point that it upsets them. But all people are different, but the majority of people will get a little bit of exaggeration and they won't be offended by it. So you should try to get the maximum out of your thumbnails and your titles as possible without promising something that's not in there. So you don't want to say, I lost someone very dear today in the garden, and then you have a gardening video about cabbages and nothing happens.
You pulled out a weed.
Yeah, you pull out a weed or something. I mean, unless you're deliberately trying to make a funny video, maybe, you could get away with that. Like I did, it's time to leave or something. I'm leaving. That one got a little bit of blowback, but most people forgave me because I was going on a holiday. But they assumed I was leaving YouTube. And I did not say that. I didn't say it in the title, I'm leaving YouTube. I just said I'm leaving. But it was a cheeky thing. It hasn't hurt me, subscriber-wise, but that's borderline.
So you maybe wouldn't want to do it all the
time.
No,
don't do it all the time. This is what's improved with YouTube. You can now thumbnail test, A and B test, different thumbnails. You couldn't do that. In fact, you couldn't do that till a couple of years ago. You might have got extra software and been able to do it. You might have been able to do it with extra paid software and things, but on YouTube natively for free, you couldn't test thumbnails. You can do that now.
Do you do that?
I do. Yeah, I do test thumbnails if I'm unsure, especially because there could be several ways to go, and it can be good to have. I mean, it's very handy to have 3 different thumbnails, and then the algorithm chooses the one for you. The weird thing is when you're doing the YouTube choosing the best thumbnail, say out of the 3, the weird thing is it doesn't just go off how many clicks you get on a certain thumbnail. It goes off how many clicks and how long people watch that video for. So if you get a lot of clicks on one thumbnail, more than on the other, but that thumbnail people don't watch your video as long, well then it'll choose the other one over it, even though that one's more popular.
So smart.
I know it's kind of weird, but yeah, they've really put a lot of thought into it. But yeah, if you look at your analytics, and before the analytics has always kind of been there. You'll get a number of views, and then when you go back and you say, oh, I've got 1,000 views on that video, that's fantastic. You go and you look at your watch time. If your video is 10 minutes, you've got 1,000 views, and your average watch time is 1 minute. Well, and you have a look at the graph, and you see lots of people dropping straight off after your introduction. Well, you kind of know that you've done something wrong there. What's wrong? Well, why aren't they watching it all the way through? Or have you given the game away too early? If you're saying, this is my best tip on tomatoes, and in your first minute you say, yeah, my best tip is this, And by the way, let's go for a look around the garden, and people are gone. This is what you've told me your video is about. This is what I've come to see. You've given me that information. At the same time, you can't drag people along either. Otherwise, in the new world, you'll get people fast forwarding to that position, and the more people that fast forward to that will show on their graph when they're watching YouTube, and they'll come as a high point, and they'll all fast forward to that one point, get the information and go. And that's why Shorts, I think, has become popular, because for a lot of people, they just want a short grab of information, especially in the information type things. For the funnies, it's different. But in information videos, that can be pretty good thing to do. But if you're doing longer form videos, people do love a lot of tips and that type of thing, and you can see where people's dropped off. You really should, if you've done a really good video, you're doing yourself a disservice by not putting time and effort into a really good thumbnail and a good title, because it's like a billboard trying to promote a new drink that everyone that's tasted it loves it, but you put a can on there that, I don't know, looks like turd in water or something, and it's very unappealing, and it's not bright, the billboard's boring. Well, no one's going to buy that product and then get that experience.
So effectively what you're saying is that a title and a good thumbnail makes the product that is good look good.
Yeah, that's right. It's your package. It's your advertising, what's in it. And see, it's even better when they click on that thumbnail and they get the reward that the video is good, and they get the reward of the information. You do get rewarded as a creator, because then YouTube sees these people watching it for longer. Then they'll think, well, if they did, and they loved it, they watched it all the way through, 90% of them watched it, then they'll start showing it to other people. It gives YouTube the confidence to show that tomato video over the other tomato video. And then that's how your videos can go viral.
Should people do shorts? Should content creators do shorts of their longer videos?
I think so. I think Shorts has helped kind of regenerate my channel. You can get stale, and I do like Shorts. I think there's a place for them, and it's proven because of TikTok. But it was before that. There's lots of people that still were fast forwarding videos and getting the main points, and that showed me that you could look at it and you can see the peaks in your videos. Some people just want information, they want to get to the point and they haven't got time. So there is a place for informational videos to have shorts and short videos to give people quick information. So if you Google how to grow a pineapple, you'll probably find now that you'll get some shorts in there, maybe even one of mine, on 60 seconds on how to grow a pineapple. And people will click on that and just watch that because they want to just know quickly how do they grow it and where it grows or whatever. Where then there'll be other videos and other information, blogs and that for people that want longer and want to learn more about it. So it's filling a gap there, yeah. So there's a trend in shorts, there's a trend in really long form, and there's a trend in just normal middle form videos. And that's just because people are getting more familiar with content, and depending on what mood they're in, they're going to watch all three of them.
That's about all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much.
Something else that you'd like, more wisdom you'd like to share with us?
No more wisdom except subscribe to this channel, because I tell you what, you've got some really good speakers and good content to come.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah,
I do.
yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
Okay, cheers.